division. Obviously, the biggest announcement was Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. Do you like that fight? Do you like the matchup?
I just love that fight. I'm not
Me
saying that's
too.
like there aren't other ones I wouldn't want to also see maybe before that if given the opportunity. But as I mentioned, I spoke to Dustin Poirier yesterday, dude. He is, to me, listen, I don't know if he's going to win, right? Because there are some there's so many factors here, right? Which is Conor going to play mind games? And he didn't against Cerrone, and he and Dustin appeared to be cordial, at least on social media. Will that hold through in the pre-fight? Whatever. If it does, you have to ask yourself, who is Conor as a fighter without the mind games? And maybe he's just as good, but there's an open question there, right? It's not a given that it's the same. That's the first thing I'd say. The second one is, listen, I don't know if Dustin's going to win because he's a bit of a slow starter, and Conor is the best fighter maybe I've ever seen in terms of how good can you be relative to your limit at the beginning of a fight. And he is just like the best version of himself, early in that way. So that's a bit of a stylistic challenge. But Dustin Poirier, dude, 12 fights since then, 10-2. The only losses were the Johnson one, which was a little bit weird, and the Khabib one. Okay, Khabib is not going to fight him the way that Conor is. And he's just so understanding of what it takes to succeed at this point. He is threading the needle between understanding that it's a big opportunity but not getting too hyped. What's the right kind of training? What do I need to control? What can I control? How do I manage these things and then dial myself in to get the best out of myself without, letting these sort of immature feelings or ideas about the world drag me down? He still, even if he masters all of that, you still have to fight a Conor who probably is still very, very good. But if Dustin is going to beat Conor, it's going to be this version of him. And I think no matter what, Brendan, I have to tell you, and I think you probably agree, I can see Conor winning. However, I do not see it going like the first one. I would be very surprised that if this one looked like the first one.
Agree. I do another show with Theo Vaughn. We do King of the Sting, and him and Dustin Poirier are close. They're from the same hometown, and they're very close. And I was in Nashville doing shows, and me and Theo were in the green room, and Theo doesn't know fighting really. And he goes, "Oh, Dustin got the fight. I just talked to him. He's fighting Conor McGregor." And he goes, "Oh, this is going to be great for him, man. He's going to knock that fool out." And I was like, maybe. And he goes, "What do you think?" I said, this is what I think. If Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor and he wants to fight for his legacy and it's a dialed-in Conor McGregor with none of the nonsense and all that stuff, he has a real camp and he wants to make a run at the title and that Khabib's out of there, and he brings his A game and Dustin Poirier brings his A game, Conor wins that fight. But if Conor's even at a fraction of not his A game, if he's at a 9.8, 9.7, he's going to get knocked out. But if they're both at their ultimate, 10 out of 10, both ready to go, Conor should win that fight. That's where I'm at on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. The thing that I go back to is, I talked about the mind games. A lot of the, Conor's interesting, right? I'm sure you've dealt with this too. If you give Conor praise, all of his critics call you a shill. If you praise Conor, all of his, if you criticize him, all of his fans say, you just love Khabib. Like there's no, to the MMA world, he is either Jesus or Satan, and there's no in between. But I wonder, I am almost hoping that he doesn't play mind games, which is to say, if he doesn't, and he goes in there and beats Dustin, or loses either way, but let's say he beats him, you would finally get a sense of like actually how good is he? Because part of beating Jose Aldo was what? He was all mentally fried from the taunting and Eddie Alvarez, in over his head for the experience and blah blah blah. Okay, what if you remove all that and you still beat them with your skills in the end? It might actually be one of those moments where folks are like, you know what? Even and not as fans, the critics, where they come around and say, yeah, that dude's legit. Like, yeah, he's been winning big fights, but he did it without all the sorcery this time. He did it without all of the magic tricks. He did it straightforwardly with just, his fucking mitts. I wonder what that might do if that's the reality that we face.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I think what else is interesting, if you look back on Conor's career, like now that we've seen how freaking good Khabib is and what he's done to these other guys like Gaethje, like Dustin Poirier, and we see, if you go back and watch the fight with Conor and Khabib, well, Conor actually didn't do that bad. I know this isn't a popular opinion, but it's really not that bad. He got up a number of times. That fourth round was a little dicey. So when you look back on that and you realize how good Khabib is, you're like, all right, and now Khabib's gone. If you're a Conor fan, there's a road to him being the top dog again, man.
People just want to forget that Conor swept Nate Diaz off of his back.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, what are some of Conor's problems? Am I saying he's as good on the ground in totality as Nate Diaz? No, it's not what I'm saying. Am I saying that, whatever, some grandiose claim? Don't attribute to me anything I'm not saying. I'm just saying people want to say his ground game's not good. It's real good. Is it the best in the division? No, it's not the best in the division. But to your point, Khabib spent the first round doing everything possible to control and wear him out. Only at the very end of that first round was he trying to do any kind of real ground and pound. And the second round was a bad round for Conor. I think we can all agree.
Yeah,
but he rebounded
really
in the third, took it from him, and then, of course, in the fourth he lost because Khabib is Khabib. Fine. Okay. But I'm just trying to point out to people, if you look at Conor on the ground, and I made this mistake too. Guilty as charged. I made this mistake when he fought Mendez, and he didn't really do a whole lot of his back. He would lock up full guard and then really not do anything and wait for a moment to just spring to his feet. Well, first of all, he won that fight and he won it on short notice. Second of all, he had a kind of leg injury, apparently like a knee injury, ACL or MCL or one of the two, something, where he couldn't even, he couldn't have even gone to butterfly, let's say, because you couldn't have put any weight on his hooks there. And there's not much you're going to be able to do in those kinds of moments, and he still got the job done. It's like, guys, maybe Conor, you can say he's a front runner. Maybe you can say that, if that's what I think you want to say. Second Diaz fight notwithstanding. But you can't say his ground game is bad. You can't even say his ground game is anything but good. It's very good.
Okay.
And I think that the overall body of work but you know what? Dustin Poirier, black belt in jiu-jitsu. Like, he's no slouch on the ground either. So it makes it kind of interesting.
So, you have the Conor, you got the Poirier fight. So to me, I don't know if they've announced anything. I haven't seen anything on social media. Maybe you know better than me. But and I saw Chandler tweeted out something that seemed like, he's starting camp. So I'd assume it's Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, correct?
That is I've not heard, but that is
Gotcha.
my working assumption. How about that?
And it makes sense, and Chandler was on a Food Truck Diary, and he goes, I want three guys. I want Conor, obviously he's matched up, that's not happening. He goes, I want Ferguson, that's not happening, he's matched up. He goes, or I want Gaethje. Those are only three that the UFC has talked to me about. Those are only three I'm going to fight. I don't want to fight anybody else, even if they call me out, it's not happening. All right, well, those two guys are gone, so that leaves you with freaking Justin Gaethje, and it makes sense. Sign me up for that fight, by the way. That's a great fight.
That is I don't know what the nature documentary equivalent is, but it feels like two rams.
Yes.
Those guys are forward, and they both kind of. Well, Michael Chandler uses much more offensive wrestling than Justin does, but he is just a forward, heavy punching fucking. Gas pedal to the floor kind of bruising marauder, and we all know what Justin Gaethje is. Khabib ended up being a bad matchup in the end because I think all the years of Justin not really focusing on actual mat work, like what to do if you're going to stay on the mat, kind of hurt him there. There was a massive discrepancy on the mat, and Michael Chandler has good ground and pound and good ground game, but getting it there is going to be a bit of a challenge. And in the in between, when those two are fucking slinging leather. I hope it lasts a long time. I don't know that it will if they end up fighting because both of them have vicious KO power. That is chaos written all over it.
And I told Chandler this when he was on Food Truck Diary. I was happy. I knew his contract was up with Bellator and he's fielding other offers. I was just as a fan, I was happy that he signed with the UFC. He was the face of Bellator. He did, he's MMA royalty over there and just in, MMA in general, but especially Bellator. And he did work over there. He did exactly what he planned to do over there. Now I want to see him jump over to the best division in the UFC at 155. So are you a fan of him coming over to the UFC? Or were you kind of sad that he left?
No, not sad at all. Listen, he had a phenomenal run in Bellator. Look at it from a couple different ways. One, if you were a fan, how much of the Bellator experience did you get with Michael Chandler? You know, he had a number of rematches because I think he was sort of running out of some of the more interesting opportunities available to him, you know, in the totality of the lightweight division, such as it exists beyond Bellator. So, you know, you got plenty of it there as a fan. You got years and years. I mean, you know, the guy was choking out Rick Hahn on fucking Spike TV for crying out loud. I mean, just think about how dated that reference sounds to everybody right now.